That Lutz Bachmann sure is a character, and his sidekick, DJ Happy Vibes, sure knows how to throw a party. Now that we've left the AfD with 99 seats in German parliament, let's see how they tie into the European-wide trend of this rise of new right-wing movements, and potentially how they tie into the United States' current situation with Donald Trump. Are there similarities? Can you directly compare them? Let's find out. Here's part 2 of a 2-part series on the AfD. We hope that you enjoy.
This motherfucker up. Crank this motherfucker up.
They're against Islam and for Christmas cake.
Yeah,
that's my understanding.
So the AfD starts off as exactly that, like just the anti, tagging on literally just to the taglines of Pegida. And then they have to be confronted with, what are we going to do about, economic policy? And all the other things that a party has to have a full-blown, family policies. And in family policy, I think they just take, Orban's perspective on a lot of this stuff.
Fuck your way out of the problem.
Yeah.
They want more German children, and that's how they're going to, combat the influx of immigrants that they see is destroying Europe and this and that and that.
They're really big on, early sexualization. This is happening in Germany all the time. There's all this, media or families are overly sexualizing children at a young age, which I guess they think turns them gay or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really traditional, if you know American conservatism about that, it's a very similar argumentation as well.
Yeah.
But the thing that then's so interesting too is that when you see them, with them being as populist as they're perceived, you got then all these people in terms of their economic policy who are, what's her name? Beatrix von Storch, who we don't hear about at all anymore because she just got laughed out of eternity. She was a scholar from the Friedrich Hayek Society or something like that.
Sick.
And they have a bunch of these people who are Austrian economists.
Oh, good.
Who started planning their economic policy to be they're very pro-free market, which is very odd of, given, okay, you can say what you want about with Trump, but Trump's whole thing was given, I'm this big successful businessman, but I at least recognize that then the workers are doing bad. And the AfD kind of does that, but the AfD answer wasn't populism economically. It's just kind of this very bland free market ideology that has never taken off with them. They're not strong in this aspect, and they don't have an economic platform still till today that is something that they actually campaign on, because it is only still this one issue that Germany is being Islamized and this and that and that.
Yeah. The anti-Euro aspect of them is completely fucking gone. It's been gone for years and years and years. Because that was the oddity when they were first being talked about, in English-speaking press, of this anti-Euro party, which was not really a thing anyone had conceived of from a Euro-using country, unless they were considered. Some news outlets would give credence to what they would call loony left anti-Euro parties.
Who were anti-Euro from day one.
Yeah.
Or unless you're just the British norm of politics, who are anti-Euro and still are anti-Euro till today. And now they left Europe. They're trying to leave Europe. So
I would say some of the other things the AfD adds is that they're definitely climate skeptics. I mean,
Frauke Petri, who is a chemist.
Yeah, and the other woman, Alice Weido, who she came in to be one of the leaders right when Frauke Petri left. She was also a scientist, and it's kind of
and it's so funny because they give these, even though they're chemists and they're trained scientists and stuff like that, the logic that they use about why they're against, someone went and asked Frauke Petri during kind of it ended up kind of being when kids ask Ben Shapiro dumb questions that then he can just easily destroy, which I feel bad for.
Frauke Petri destroys climate science.
Literally, it was something like that, because it was just this very she was like, oh, if you have a chemical and it ends up and you end up burning it, you still then would have the chemical then somewhere around him. We don't have that with the sense of carbon and this and that and that. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's in the atmosphere. Like, it's appearing all around it. But whatever. I don't give I am not a chemist. Maybe she's right.
If the globe is warming, why is the globe still here? Answer me that, liberal.
I'm waiting for one of the, and I think the thing that's so different about than Germany with the U.S. is that in the U.S. you've been seeing these crazy winters that are just these unending snowstorms and stuff like that. And the
dystopian
polar vortices.
Yeah. And the exact, like, we've had a horribly warm last 2 winters here that I don't think we've had snow yet, like actual snow that has stuck around on the ground for multiple days.
It was unseasonably warm this week. As well.
This week was in like the 10s in Celsius, which is like what, the 50s in Fahrenheit, and that's not normal. It's February. Like, I've seen snow twice this year, I think, and I find it really weird when I see these type of politicians then getting so much traction with the actual, argument of global warming happening around them. At least, like, you can have in the U.S. the really funny thing of that one congressman bringing a snowball in and, chucking it, being like, global warming's not happening, but here there's no snow,
Yeah, something I want to get into while we go through all these reactions. I saw the AfD, especially another thing that we didn't bring up about them was that they do consider themselves very media savvy, and they always want to, and they look at the other...
They're not. Like, they're actually very bad at this.
I feel like if you have to say it, you're not
good at it.
What they mean is that the other German parties, they think, are just, like, completely old and decrepit, and, like...
Which is true.
And the AfD just, like, knows how to make a YouTube video, so...
yeah, they have that one guy. What's his name?
I gotta look it up.
The important thing about making a YouTube video is actually you don't hold your phone vertically. You turn it horizontal.
Yeah.
That's how you get the
They're
hits.
all they're really hard Redditors, and they complain about that all the time. Like, I hate when I watch a video of a concert and they're holding their phone vertically.
But the sound quality is brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. But, they have this one guy who's trying to be this kind of Steven Crowder.
Yeah, Roger Beckham.
He's what, Beckham? Beckamp. Okay. Oh, Beckamp.
Yeah.
I need to think of a louder with Crowder pun for this name, like right now.
Got nothing.
No, belling it out with Beck. I don't know.
Bend it like Beckham.
God damn.
But he goes around like...
He goes around to Antifa rallies, and everyone knows who he is at these things. Just like, get the fuck out of our face. And he's like, you just hate freedom. You hate freedom of speech. And then at least Steven Crowder goes and like strikes a conversation up with dumb, gullible people who will be willing to talk to someone who's an internet superstar. And who apparently just don't go online and don't recognize who he is. Well, but this guy's just an absolute nobody who... people know is a part of the AfD at least, and they just don't want to talk to him. And then he uses that as his got the libs. They just don't want to talk to us. They don't want to further a conversation about what's true for Europa, but spelt with a V and all that other
and a big bag of racism. What's this German guy's name again?
David Beckham.
David Beckham. Yeah. What was Beckham? Has he
like Beckham?
Has he voiced a character on the children's TV show Arthur?
I don't. Maybe he's the German DW. Or...
The German DW. Yeah, he was the German dub version of him. Yeah.
So I think this is a good transition to talk about how people react to the AfD, including our lovely Antifa kids. And
this is actually very similar than in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, just in the same way that the AfD has just grown into this owning the libs party, like they just want to yell at you about climate change isn't real.
And race science.
The Italians aren't people.
Feminists, SJWs. Like, a lot of the reactions take a similar, maybe you can call it familiar form. First, I want to start with the international
attention. Frauke Petry destroys climate activists.
I want to start with the international attention because if you have to remember the timeline, the parliament election was in the end of 2017. And in 2016, we had Brexit, and then we had Trump's election. And throughout 2017, when the AfD is gaining traction, a lot of people, especially internationally, are saying, like, this is the next not domino, obviously, because they weren't expected to win, but this was the next big thing to look at, in the biggest country.
Yeah. When the AFD kind of like first showed up, there was this kind of attitude by these people that it couldn't happen in Germany. Germany had dedicated too much of its like modern history to like.
But it did happen in Germany.
It did, yeah. But like the consensus in like the UK and the English speaking world was like Germany had dedicated a lot of its history to like making sure this shit didn't happen again, and they weren't going to fall for it. Didn't work out, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Well, it falls under this illusion that if you just try really hard and tell everyone not to be racist, then no one will be racist. It's just all a matter of like will of the people.
Yeah. That was in Germany's history.
You could say that the will didn't triumph.
Oh God!
For fuck's sake.
But the every other party in Germany has been perfect on the record with racism as well. There are the people.
Everyone knows this.
Yeah, the people of the AfD just appeared out of the racist soil of Germany. They weren't former members.
East Germany.
Yeah, of East Germany.
Very racist East German soil.
Very racist East Germany, as the New York Times tells us. They didn't appear out of the CDU, like let's say Alexander Gauland in his horrible, depressing demeanor that he always has. I think that's actually where the most of them come from, is from the CDU, and this is why I think
a lot of the old like Gauland and other people are former CDU.
Yeah, and if you look at the CDU's positions on most of this stuff pre-AFD, it really isn't all that different. It's just more of a dog whistle in these senses, and you even see that with the positions that then Angela Merkel's parliament and her party put up as well. Even the idea then with the voluntary emigration from Germany. So emigration, leaving with an E.
Self-deportation.
Self-deportation, literally, yeah. And that wasn't an AfD proposal. The original proposal was actually, hilariously enough, an NPD proposal from elections in 2012 or something, like local elections in 2012 or 2010 or something like that. And they had these horrible election posters that had someone on a magic carpet going back to Turkey.
That's how they do it.
Yeah. And there's a really funny example of this Turkish guy writing. The NPD asks, why do you vote the NPD? And the Turkish guy writes, so I can get a free ticket back home. And this was a policy that then doesn't get adopted by, obviously the AfD wants this type of deportation, but the one to put it into what we see now in Germany was the CDU adopting an actual, what I always thought was kind of a joke policy of the NPD. I mean, they don't view it as a joke, but I always kind of saw it as just this hilarious thing of, look at how dumb these fucking racists are. And now you actually have this as an option for people in Germany. And I mean, the numbers of people leaving the country in this isn't that high. I don't think it's been very successful. But the fact that it exists is still mind-boggling, that the non-AfD parties can still be this, can still implement this type of legislation. And given, yes, it could be because of, Seehofer, the former interior minister, who is probably as close to the AfD as you can get.
Right. Well, I wanted to talk about him because he became interior minister first after the 2017 election, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's part of the CSU, and he's been a critic of Merkel from the right, and he's been instrumental in pushing the CSU for the right. And that's, a lot of people looked at the Bavarian elections last year and said, look, the AfD didn't do so well. The CSU just said, all right, we can do that.
Because they have a party already there that does that.
Yeah.
And they don't have to, they don't have to flex and be any more racist than they already are, because they are the AfD, and I wouldn't even say that they're AfD light. Like, the AfD doesn't exist in Bavaria very much at all, because the CSU is so much further right than the CDU, and they're the same party apparently, and they get it's a confusing thing.
But I think it does, that recent Bavarian election, correct me if I'm wrong in this analysis, but was kind of a good example of, you're not going to beat the AfD by becoming more like them.
Yeah.
Because that was like kind of what what Seehofer was trying to do, was like, we need to move further to the right to steal AFD votes. And that didn't work for him. And then there was this sudden like Greens popped up that no one thought would or whatever. But
yeah, but I mean, given the CSU losing ground that they did, doesn't matter when they were. I mean, they've been the only governing party in that state for 60 years.
Yeah, exactly.
But
well, another thing that separates the AfD out as a special case and sort of unlike the rest is how the media treats the AfD.
Yeah, there is a
parties.
different out. Like, I mean, we have to first, I guess, dissect a little bit how the German media system is in comparison to somewhere like the United States or the UK, which is a just straight up full market function of, or I guess you could say like liberal market media regime would be then the technical political communications framework, where Germany has a much more centralized media system, given yes there are actors like Bild and Zeit, which are their own entities, but there is a centralized entity of the ARD, which is more or less state media in Germany. Yeah. And even then the ARD tries to then promote itself as also being anti-AfD, really went with actually is, in my opinion, empowered a party that then is gone with a rhetoric of being anti-establishment when the media establishment then is even against them, is a very odd situation. And we like you see it in even Bild, who is a far right-wing magazine. I mean, they're not as far right as like Breitbart or something, but they're insane. Like, their entire whole thing is just a right-wing conservative tabloid. They're horribly racist. They just have, very problematic, big text, like Breitbart-esque title pages of things.
Typical tabloid type of thing.
Yeah, still a tabloid thing. So I guess like the National Enquirer would be something like that in the U.S., but they don't just make up. I mean, they do make up stories.
Like Daily Mail.
Daily Mail in the
Daily
UK.
Mail. Yeah, okay. Or like the Sun, I think is another one, right?
Daily Mail is more egregious because it holds the record for being the British paper that supported Hitler.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's a move that you really can't.
Which is just baffling that they aren't forced by the government to print that with every issue. Just a reminder, we supported Hitler. But yeah, go on.
But yeah. So there has been given yes, okay, in the United States you have CNN and MSNBC or the New York Times and Washington Post continuously writing about how bad Trump is and this and that and that. You have an entire media regime as well that exists counter to that, with Fox and Breitbart, that's been pumping out everything that you read is bad, and therefore Trump is good, and therefore Trump is right. Where in Germany, it's mostly like Facebook pages and Twitter, and they have a very few amount. Like Breitbart tried to open up here very unsuccessfully, and protests obviously ensued, rightfully so. But it's been a very interconnected network of mostly like Facebook pages and like comments on Tagesschau, which is the daily news thing from the AR from like the government, more or less, of people being like, using this lying press, Lügenpresse sort of thing to solidify their position on it. And they're not actually really wrong about that, in that sense that the state and the media instruments that the state has are against them. I mean, they have small magazines, but the circulation's like nothing. No one reads fucking Compact and whatnot, unless you're an actual Nazi.
So it's weird to compare that with like what happened to the UK with like the BBC and UKIP, where like people talk about how like the BBC was almost kind of obsessed with UKIP, but the UKIP still got to like promote this narrative that they were anti-establishment and everyone was out to get them. But yeah, no, I can imagine it being a million times worse in Germany when the state-run media is actually out to like.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a pro-AFD point from any center media source in Germany.
Right.
I mean, maybe they'll be pro certain aspects of like the thing, but they'll never go outright and say like, this is good because the AFD is doing it, like you would see with Fox, where just Fox has become the ultimate Trump stan. Like there is no Sean Hannity in Germany. You know, and everyone, I mean, like, it really is an entire country run by yeah, just very centrist liberal sort of ideas. And then you have also just an entire nighttime show thing as well with like the Daily Show or whatever sort of ideology that also encompasses like, look at how silly and stupid the AFD is.
And then Neo Magazine Royale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think there is a faith certainly amongst German liberals, but amongst a lot of people in Germany, that the system works. They have a great constitution. They figured everything out.
There's so many legal positives in Germany. It's insane.
And that they will take care of it. There's this little problem now at the AfD, but, they'll work it out.
But they just keep winning. They love winning.
A great example of this is, you have a parallel in the U.S. with, like, people begging for a deep state coup against Trump, and now they love the FBI and the CIA.
Yeah.
Everybody in Germany was like, well, the Verfassungsschutz, which is literally the protection of the Constitution, which operates kind of as the FBI in Germany, they're like, well, they'll surveil them and take care of them.
But hold up. It wouldn't be potentially that the Verfassungsschutz also is dominated by far right-wing shitheads.
This is this topic opens a bunch of worms. You can go back to right after the reunification of Germany, when the Verfassungsschutz aggressively persecuted left-wing movements in East Germany, but not right-wing movements. And right up to the present day, there was this guy...
we have to back up. The Verfassungsschutz was made with old Nazis. The beginning of it is just a bunch of old Nazis that the United States puts into the national security system of Germany because they just didn't... given, yes, you have the Nuremberg trials and they persecute the top echelon of the SS, but all these other people who had, also not as high-ranking jobs, but still were very much connected and had these skills that they learned and still possessed the ideology that the Nazi Party had, ended up... you have the scientist thing with Operation Paperclip that the CIA did. Given, yes, that was to counteract the Soviets and make an atomic bomb first, but you then see when the United States is rebuilding Germany in the 1950s, they just use all these leftover people who had governmental and surveillance experience, and we kind of don't really give a shit anymore that you were a Nazi. We already, killed them in the Nuremberg trials, or they're, rotting in prison. But you can still have a job because you're not, Himmler or Rudolf Hess or any of these other people. So,
yeah, and that goes right up to the present day with this. I think he just stepped down, actually, but this guy Maaßen, who was head of the Verfassungsschutz in 2017, and everyone was pressing him, and the Verfassungsschutz themselves were looking into it, whether to surveil the AfD, and this is...
He gave information to the AfD of how to avoid being surveilled by the state.
Yeah, exactly. So they work together, but I think a lot of people, especially liberals, were pinning their hopes on, well, the system works, the Verfassungsschutz will keep them in check.
And not to mention, he looks like a caricature of a very well-off Nazi. He has this, his hair combed back and these very teeny tiny glasses.
I'm gonna need to see this guy.
Yeah, please look up Hans-Georg Maaßen.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, he put his photo in black and white.
Hans George.
Okay, that one's bad. That's just a very standard Wikipedia photo. But if you find there's other photos of him where he looks, just shift it black and white. You got yourself a classic upper echelon Nazi on your hands.
Yeah, it's just that weird international trend of the liberals appealing to authority thing. It is very comparable to the whole Robert Mueller thing in the States, and
he's just gonna do it. He's gonna take down Trump.
Do it, Mueller senpai. But the one in the UK never really caught on, but there was that real big push of just getting MI5 or 6, whichever one is in charge of this, to
the one that James Bond's a part of.
Yes,
okay,
that very same to get James Bond to investigate the Ruskies for influencing the Brexit vote.
Watch, that's gonna be the newest James Bond movie. It's gonna be just this really dumb cybersecurity James Bond themed thing. I bet you.
I always send it further.
Because James Bond's now woke. He's gonna start respecting women and.
But he'll never be black. That's the important thing.
Of course not. Yeah.
No.
We can't go that far.
No, that's too far.
James Bond will be a woman though.
So
it'll be. I don't know. How could you womanize? What James Bond has done plenty of womanizing in his day.
Jamina Bond? What's the female?
I don't know.
Jasmine
Bond.
Jasmine
Bond.
We did it. Thanks, folks, for sticking with us through
Queen,
that.
We did it. Jasmina Bond, aka female Robert Mueller, is gonna
versus Vladimir Putin and his mind control ray that turns
America into the Soviet Union
and Polish people in the UK into the enemies of the state or something. That's
Wait, they weren't the enemies of the state?
Apparently not.
Oh shit! Damn it! I misunderstood Brexit.
So we've gotten to the point where we have to talk about what happened in Chemnitz.
Oh wait, one more thing about the Verfassungsschutz as well. Yeah. I know that we're going to probably devote an entire episode to this because it is so big, but there was also a case of a lot of murders that a bunch of Nazis did that are called the NSU affair, the NSU affair, and the Verfassungsschutz just kind of continuously lost documents all the time. And there's also cases of what in German are called V-Männer, which would be someone like an undercover person who goes and like an undercover FBI agent or something, just becoming a little bit too friendly to Nazi groups, and then they can't use this person anymore because then they have become a Nazi.
Damn,
and
lost another one.
Yeah, like this has happened so many times, unfortunately, that all these dipshits who already have a right-wing inclination are like, okay, you're going to go and investigate a Nazi group. And they're like, oh, shit, you can't use me anymore. Like, these guys are right. Like, they understand Europa the way that we don't.
Yep.
And it like, this, like, I don't want to, make jokes about it because it is really horrible. The fact that the NSU murders, I think finally they got sentenced. No, they still haven't gotten sentenced.
I don't know enough about it, but I think so I think 3 people got sentenced, like not enough and stuff.
Yeah.
But of course these 3 people committed all these murders and bombing attacks, killed all these people. It's just these 3,
Yeah.
For sure,
Yeah.
I
So
don't know. That's all you. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's also not it's over or something. There are I don't know, a lot of other things come up again, with letters as NSU 2.0 and whatever. I don't know.
And it is typically just handled horribly by the German states. Anti-terrorism thing or whatever.
I literally found out about the NSU stuff while I was waiting for a bus to arrive when I just landed in Tegel Airport when I moved to this country.
You're just like, welcome to Germany.
Yeah.
Hey.
Welcome to
These
this,
guys are still here.
welcome to this liberal haven that is Germany. Oh no.
Welcome
Luckily
to Berlin.
for you, you're not
still Nazis.
You're not Turkish or the one Greek guy who got killed, so you're fine.
Yeah, right?
You're A-okay.
God, that fucking Greek guy.
Yeah.
To go back to Maassen, one thing to point out is that he was the guy. I mean, you've heard about the NSA controversy within Germany about how the German state was giving NSA all this information. That was him. He was the one who met with the...
Good job.
I don't know if NSA particularly...
He met with Obama himself. He's like, Hans, great job. Give Merkel this phone. Does not spy on her. That it was actually a thing, you know that, right?
Yeah.
This donut is delicious. Is there any dog in here?
Obama has been murdered by the NSU underground for carrying a doner kebab.
Hey, but at least doner is halal. So Obama can eat wherever he wants.
Okay, Chemnitz. We have to talk about Chemnitz.
Jesus.
So, where to start? This was in August.
Again, another racist East German city.
Yep. Due to all that racist soil.
All that racist soil that people just keep appearing out of.
As soon as you just put your bare toes onto it, you're just like, I need to murder Cubans.
So, in August of last year, 2018, somebody was killed in the streets of Chemnitz, and the guy was
an Antifa activist or something
He
too.
was, yeah.
well, yeah, I think he was involved in these things. I mean, it wasn't like a Antifa protest or anything. He just was caught in
Yeah,
some
caught in the
street
wrong
fight or
place. But the
something.
thing that ends up really funny is that he ends up the guy himself was very active in the Chemnitz Antifa scene and such.
Yeah, exactly. His name
Again, racists just keep fucking themselves over. First with Lutz with his PKK hatred, again being just an Erdogan cell, and with this whole thing that they literally started like a month-long protest because a migrant killed someone that they also don't like, but because the person that they also don't like happens to be white, they're gonna just throw a big fit about it.
White in Europe because he was Cuban, wasn't he?
Yeah, I will say he was half German, half Cuban. So depending on which update person you talk
to,
yeah.
But anyway, so
I don't know how I feel about this.
So
now.
that's exactly what happened. This activist just happened to be killed in the streets of Chemnitz. The two suspects were two young men who one was Syrian, one was Iraqi, and they were taken into custody. Whatever. These kind of things happen everywhere in the world. What happened after that is that all of it's not necessarily Pegida, but all of these right-wing groups that operate in East Germany, around Chemnitz, in Dresden, they seize on this moment and start marching, saying, the refugees are killing
like that
the
Eminem
Germans.
song.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is what happens when you combine the racist soil of Eastern Europe with foreigners. They just murder the wrong people.
This is what Eminem was talking about in his music.
Thank you, Eminem, for
White Germany. And then they just go. It's like a Charlottesville situation. They're
White Germany's
marching
not
around.
nearly as funny as White America. That just made me slightly upset when you said that.
But you have they basically just went around like beating up people, threatening people for days on end. Just a bunch of, Nazis. And the thing is, they were joined by Björn Höcke and a lot of people marching, saying these people are just having legitimate concerns about their city.
When I have legitimate concerns, I also do go through the streets and just start beating people up. And this is the thing. Like the thing too is that then when the situation starts then turning itself into like a mass protest that we see, and the violence is still happening, and then the police are all around the town, and you just have these horrible YouTube videos coming up of people beating up people who clearly look like foreigners to this other group of pure white Germans. And the police are just sitting there being like, "What? Oh, I didn't see anything. What are you talking about?" Even though they're in the video, clearly not doing anything. And there's a bunch of funny memes that then popped up about how the German police are incompetent, but that's a whole other topic as well.
So the reason this is relevant for our discussion is because not only did AfD politicians support it and take part in the protests while these riots were going on all around the city, our new favorite person, Hans-Georg Maaßen, was interviewed in Bild, actually. It's saying that
the videos were faked, weren't they? He literally said that
Chemnitz isn't real.
Chemnitz
I've never heard
isn't real.
I've never heard of it.
He used the fucking Bielefeld argument on Chemnitz.
Yeah, actually, you're exactly right. So he says there's no credible evidence for the hunts, even though there were these videos. He's like, there's no credible evidence that anyone's going around hunting foreigners or foreign-looking people in Germany.
He didn't deny the existence of the city of Chemnitz.
His security agency had not seen any such evidence.
Okay.
Maybe, and I'm just saying what's on my mind here. Maybe his security agency really fucking sucks. Maybe they have a history of being very bad at this. I didn't just talk about this or anything, but maybe. Who knows? But then, after all this, then Merkel gets mad at him. Cause it's like
Seehofer keeps defending him.
Yeah, because Seehofer is a ride or die pimp.
Yeah, exactly.
But Merkel gets mad at him, and it was like, "Damn, you're stupid. You don't know how YouTube works. I'm firing you." And then Seehofer, because he's a ride or die pimp, allows him to then resign, but with full pay for the rest of his life. No, wait. First off, sorry, take that back. They demoted him to a different position that got paid more money.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
again, I love these demotions.
Yeah, and then he got kicked out because everyone was like, "That's not how this should work." The thing though that bugs me so much about the Hans-Georg Maaßen thing is, with all the speculation and not even just speculation, with all the truth around him being very cozy to the AfD and being very cozy to maybe not him personally, but overseeing the NSU situation very poorly, that this is an issue, like that this is the issue that then is the thing that topples him, is that he doesn't know how to, he doesn't know if YouTube videos are legitimate or not. And that really, I don't know, that's something that really continuously bugs me about Germany, or just I guess politics as a whole, is that then these horrible people can exist within the system of government. And Hans-Georg Maaßen, I think, was appointed by Merkel in her first or second term of government, and he's been there, and he's always been this far right-wing dipshit.
Okay, so even after Hans-Georg Maaßen gets his very cushy pension, there's still this big debate over whether the Verfassungsschutz will surveil the AfD, and it came down earlier this year that, I mean, everyone was spinning it as a victory because the Verfassungsschutz came out and said, yeah, we're going to add surveillance to some members of the AfD party, but they didn't say they were going to surveil the whole party, which was actually the big move that would actually make a difference in the thing that people wanted. I mean, the left party in Germany is surveilled, like how many of them? Dozens of them are undergoing constant surveillance.
Yeah, or even look at, I mean, parties, smaller left-wing parties in Germany who have no ground whatsoever, like is it the DKP? I don't know. I'm always confused because the KPD is the old one that isn't allowed to exist anymore. But there's the DKP, and there's the MLPD, and they're both communist parties who will never win anything in this country ever, and they're continuously surveilled by the German state. Or even newspapers like Junge Welt, which is a left-wing paper, is surveilled by the Verfassungsschutz continuously for whatever it is that they're doing wrong that day of the week, because they're left-wing terrorists and this and that and that.
Yeah, something we glossed over earlier was with the media and a lot of the reaction to the AfD was painting the far left and the far right with the same, I mean, the German version of the horseshoe theory.
Yeah.
The same way the media doesn't give any coverage to the AfD, and
they do it with their own history too. Like they really do. Like there is these horrible argumentations that the GDR is an extension of the NSDAP, so Nazi Germany. It's like, oh, they were both totalitarian, which they both weren't.
Yeah.
And
what's great for that is the entire country of Poland.
Yeah, and you see this rhetoric done throughout, and this isn't just in the right in Germany either. This is done by like basic liberals who just use this very like, oh well, the only true Germany was West Germany because then we experienced freedom, this and that, but they in the GDR were still under a brutal dictatorship, and for them technically the time of Nazi Germany really never ended, which is completely false. I mean, regardless of if the GDR was bad or good, the racial structure of it just simply wasn't there. Yeah. The thing that made the Nazi Party the fucking Nazi Party,
One of the things that at least the German media does, and anyone and a lot of people in Germany do, is the way they throw around this word populism that gives away the game. All populism is right-wing populism, is negative, is bad. And so not only does that show you forego any possibility of any kind of left-wing movement, but you kind of give away the game in what you think government and society should be. It's a technocratic elite that has to govern the like wild emotions of the people.
Unwashed plebs.
And even setting up that structure like ties your hands and makes that the battle, and it fuels the right who say like, yeah, this is the structure that they set up for you. They think you're these racist whatever. I mean, it's true, but no one's given a way out,
Yeah. And it is legitimately an alternative that the alternative of Germany then, at least in that sense, provides to people who are confused by it. Because even as much as I wish that the left party was bigger on this, the biggest problem of theirs is that the left party is continuously caught in the position that they only ever want to be opposition. Like they never actually want to control maybe local governments, but never on a scale of Bundestag or anything of that sense. And they say that continuously.
Yeah.
And I think finally Gregor Gysi, one of the heads of the left party, has said like, okay, maybe we need to change our rhetoric on this, because on the terms of an economic answer for Germany, of the major parties, they at least have the best understanding of what. I mean, Gregor Gysi is from the East, and continuously says that like the people in the East are, they are treated differently than people in the West. There is very much like a second-class citizenry that exists between East and West, but simply just saying it and saying that, we're going to do better about that, and then not delivering on that, leaves a lot of people in Germany who aren't doing well. And I mean, this isn't even just in the East, it's also in the West. And speaking of post-industrial cities like Duisburg, if you've ever been to the NRV, North Rhine-Westphalia, there's all these old industrial cities that have dwindling factories like you'd see in Detroit and stuff like that, given not nearly as extreme. But these are also then pockets of people who are also typically very German, typically very working class, that parties have just completely disregarded as well. And they are very strong SPD areas that you can also, I mean, I think actually North Rhine-Westphalia has a massive AfD movement as well because of that the post-industrial situation that they have there. Just the New York Times being very confused about why it's only the racist East. It is an economic answer. Just strictly, like, I don't want to boil everything down that it's only economics, but it is in the sense, like, they don't have jobs, they're mad, and they're a typically homogeneous group of white people. What do you think they're going to fucking gravitate towards?
Well, like, it's, even if it, I think it's also very simple to just say, they're from a very predominantly white background. The other side of this as well is that, like, usually these very centered established parties are not willing to say things are bad. Like, like they
take that New York Times perspective of Germany.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So when the only party that's saying that things are bad are also the party that explains it away because the Syrians came and that's why things are bad, then, like, what else are you going to fucking believe? Like, that's when the only answer, the only voice out there is like, things are bad. No one else is saying things are bad, so I'm going to go with the only party that's saying things are bad and all the baggage that comes with that.
Yeah, and I think in the sense of kind of getting back to can we compare this to Trump or can't we? And I think that at least in the 2016 election, and I also you have to give a lot of credit to the sense of how the U.S. system is just simply built. You have a one or the other situation. And it really is then in Germany, someone else could be picking up that baggage, and there hasn't really been that. I mean, the SPD is maybe finally getting their shit together a little bit and maybe trying to, appeal a little bit more to workers, but they have a lot to, a lot of room to improve. Every party has a lot of room to improve in that because of how big the AfD has been in this. And 99 seats is like, I think, a seventh of, they have 12%, don't they? Yeah, so you do 12% of seats that you have to win back, regardless of what party you are, that then you have to then appeal to a group of people who feel disenfranchised. Good fucking luck. And we're, at least in the Trump scenario, a lot of people, I think, voted for Trump either because they're already going to vote Republican or they just didn't like Hillary Clinton. And I think the amount of disenfranchised people who voted for Trump is much small. Like, white disenfranchised is significantly smaller than we want to give credit to. Where in Europe, and with the AfD, that is that reality.
Yeah, but another thing the AfD does do is that Trump knew Republican style of cognitive dissonance where you're constantly aggrieved. So Germany is the best, but Germany also fucking sucks,
Yeah.
And so, like, with this cognitive dissonance, they can just stuff everything in there. So they can be proud of Germany, and then at the same time they can say, even that structure of the cognitive dissonance shows that they can't actually resolve the contradiction. Because if Germany were so great, like, if there is no great past or fix for these people to go back to, there needs to be a change.
Yeah,
but no one's offering that change. So what works is this aggrievement politics, and that's why the off day are just the new owning the libs people.
Yeah, and it like to that point that you were saying that then the United States, you grow up always with the idea of the U.S. is regardless of what party, you never hear anyone telling you that the U.S. is shit. Like very rarely, unless you have like some 16-year-old kid who just started listening to Noam Chomsky or something like that. But all in all, the Democrats and the Republicans love America, but they just want America to be a little bit better. And Trump was slightly different in that, and maybe just like a little bit more extreme than what you were saying. But I remember during the Obama years, that was what talk radio was for conservatives. It was that exact same Trump mentality. It was deeply ingrained in the conservative psyche. And for Germany, at least I've noticed that it's a country that you have to accept that Germany fucking sucks, and yeah, Germany does suck in a lot of senses. So when you have a party who then is being openly nationalist in that, and you want to then be proud of that or whatever for whatever reason it is, that is also appealing, because the entire rhetoric of being German is that you have to then live with the horrors of the Holocaust that you were responsible for and stuff like that. And for a lot, like, you get into that argumentation that then people are like, oh well, like I didn't do anything, and they just don't want to accept this history that then that they've been told that they have to feel mournful of being German, which take it for what you will. I mean, yeah, I think like for me personally, I think it's a good thing that Germany has been very introspective on this. Like admitting your faults of a genocide is something that most countries have not done.
To see the counterexample, look at
Turkey.
Japanese politics.
Turkey's
pretty bad.
Turkey.
Yeah, okay. I was going to focus on Japan, but yes, Turkey.
But to go back to Die Linke, so one problem that they have, Die Linke, the left party, one problem that they have is that they don't take seriously the fact that they'll ever be in power and have to do things.
Because they probably won't.
They also, I think, misanalyze the situation a little bit. I mean, they just scream neoliberal and call everything neoliberal. And
that's the left as the whole.
Yeah.
I feel personally attacked.
We love the N-word. We love the N-word. We love neoliberalism because it can explain everything and we don't know what the fuck it means.
People say that a lot of people on the left don't know what neoliberal means, and I'm here to tell you that it means everything I don't like.
That's right.
Yes.
I endorse that mindset.
That it just doesn't work. It's clearly not connecting. I mean, this also brings me to what I want to talk about with the way German academia and sociologists, basically what you can call like the intelligentsia of Germany.
Yeah. Like all of Europe,
responded.
Not even just in Germany.
But especially when I was doing the research for this episode, and you look at how a lot of these sociologists like try to analyze the off day, there's just endless hand-wringing over whether to classify the off day as like right populist, openly nationalist, populist with right-wing connections, right-wing language, but but drawing a clear line at open right-wing extremism. And a traditional national right conservative party, it boggles the mind. Like, why do you think none of this sticks? Because they think if you just come up with just the right label to call them, then the whole problem will go away.
Wait, that isn't how it happens?
I have a huge fucking issue with like the populism trend, because the populism trend started with about the time AFD kind of got started as a thing, like right before the last European elections, like 2013 time. And a lot of it did feel like we're a little too nervous to call some of these parties fascist or authoritarian. We feel that's a little too strong. So we're going to say populist with no consideration that like maybe populism is how you want to do politics, or maybe populism is giving these parties too much credit, like, oh, they're racist, they're being populist. It was like, wait, did you just admit the majority of people are racist? Like, this is a weird, do you have the stats for that kind of thing? And
I mean, we love statistics.
I wonk with the best of them, but like it was like fucking miserable, because now they were starting to realize that populism as a term doesn't work, and that's why they're grasping for all these other terms, like you're saying. And like why you see like the Guardian newspaper dedicate this whole section where they have a fucking freak out about populism. And it's like, take a fucking BuzzFeed quiz to see how populist you are. Why are all our readers so fucking left-wing populist? I don't understand. And like Guardian has the harsh realization that basically everyone who reads their paper is like a Podemos supporter.
But yeah, I mean, this also is you don't have to be, you don't have to tiptoe around what they are. Like, I think you can just like, fuck, like, I mean, literally, like, fuck these people's feelings. Like, half of them are literally just fascists going around cosplaying to be fascists and then pretending that they're not fascists.
Yeah.
Like the internet community of fascists, or the uncles who write on, Tagesschau or Guardian articles, or whatever the fuck it are, to school all the libs about politics and about economics, or whatever the fuck it is.
It's called supply and demand.
Yeah, whatever
Snowflake.
the fuck it is. It always is simply the fact of that, you don't need like actual fascism that was like the 30s is dead. You don't need to, like, if that's your goalpost to measure from, then you're never going to find another fascist party, except for what, Golden Dawn and what's the Casa Pound in Italy.
Yeah,
like those are the and what are they called, the Vox
in Spain. They're
like,
great.
You have these parties that then, okay, aside from Golden Dawn, who actually is like the third most popular party in Greece, but Greece is a shit show. You have very little, which they won't even admit that they're fascists. They'll call themselves metaxaists or something dumb like that. There's always a loophole out of it. But when you can see these politics that are openly, just openly these things that then would be fascistic, I guess would be the word, in nature, then fuck it, like, that's good enough for me. Given they're not Hitlerites or something, but I don't fucking care. They're also trying to renovate the idea that Hitler wasn't that bad.
There is like this weird, like, as you were saying, like, this like no true Scotsman kind of thing of like, I don't want to call them fascistic because they're literally not wearing an SS uniform, and that's my understanding.
Except for
of
some
fascism.
of them are, like Lutz Bachmann.
The Octave does this constantly. I mean, they're using this, like, anytime someone calls them a Nazi, they're like, we're in Parliament, they act all offended, these accusations are ludicrous.
The Nazis were never in Parliament.
All the while just pushing further to the right, and I think part of that, I don't want to give them too much credit.
And they're very pro-Israel too, like, in that. And they'll use that as like, oh, we, like, anti-Semitism or not, we just want all the Jews in Israel. I mean, they have that Richard Spencer idea. I mean, Richard Spencer is a full-blown open fascist too, and an open anti-Semite. But he's like, like fucking Benjamin Netanyahu, baller, Orban, pimp.
That just shows you how the AfD, I mean, how they have this side, like we talked about Viktor Orban, but they get a lot of credit for being anti-EU, but they're very pro-NATO. Yeah. And they're just like, they just want to be like Brazil and the US. They want to support Israel militarily. They want to, I mean, I think 20% of the AfD parliament members have a military background. That's the future.
So you're saying they're really
the same
brave.
Old shit.
They're brave, and I need to just respect them every time that I see them.
Bow, and
I'll
then
have Iron Cross tattoos.
Do you know? God, I hate to always mention Golden Dawn, but they're the funniest fuck up in all of European politics. One of the head guys, I forget his name. It's not. They're all either named like Nikos or something like that. Like, yeah. He's the one, if you've seen the video, who like punched a woman on TV. Have you seen that? Oh, okay.
Fucking Christ, Greek politics, get your shit together.
Yeah. So
pull that shit
up. He has a tattoo of a swastika, like, on his arm.
Like every normal person.
Like every fucking normal person. And the thing that I think is so funny, that, like, I guess explaining that in the in the most extreme sense of that, you have a party who then members just openly Nazis, and openly like the head of Golden Dawn, or one of the heads of Golden Dawn, continuously like, there were very few people who collaborated with the Greeks who collaborated openly with the Nazi government, and everyone who did, their descendants are all members of Golden Dawn now, and they're super fucking proud of it. But even in that sense, even of all that history they have, they still use those exact same things of being like, oh yeah, like, our logo may kind of look like a swastika, but we're not a Nazi party, or we may have all, like, they literally all cosplayed as Nazis. And there's all these photos around of all their old members literally just dressing up in SS uniforms and doing the whole fucking tiki torch thing like you saw in Charleston and whatnot. And they're all like the thing I think is so funny that even like in the race science thing, like the Greeks weren't that high up on Hitler's, race science thing, but they're really stoked about it. And even now that they're in parliament, they have to change that whole rhetoric. And it's very hard for the politics, even in that sense, to then convince people who are then former members of like Nea Demokratia and stuff like that, who are for the right-wing parties, but they're still not Nazis, who are then now kind of dropping into Golden Dawn, to be like, okay, like, can you not see they're not? Oh, no, like, they're not that. Like, they say that they're not Nazis, and therefore I believe them. And the fact that you're calling them a Nazi, even though they have all this fucking, stuff to prove that they're Nazis, is just means that you don't understand them and you're being insensitive, or you're being a snowflake and you're being that. And I think
the incredibly woke position is you're the real
Nazi. What? You're if you haven't looked up stuff about Golden Dawn and you really just want a shit show of like the pinnacle of everything that is wrong in European politics, that party has more than enough to give you.
There's and it's also not a purely Greek phenomenon as well. There are like parties that meet that exact same description in like Latvia, that like we're not Nazis, no, our logo isn't a swastika, I know it kind of looks like one,
they have that, what's it called, I think it's called like the Thunder Star or something like that, or like
cool name, cool fucking name.
It's just 3 or 4 swastikas put together.
That is my wrestling persona, and I'm going to attract an entirely Greek nationalist audience.
Hell yeah! But and that's, I guess, like kind of to end this off, like get this more towards a conclusion, is that this isn't also a Germany only thing. Like this wave is happening all throughout Europe, and it's really hard to combat. It really is hard to find a politic that can combat in a continent that is so pretends to be so, unified, and then yet I guess kind of like dialectically hates everyone that isn't them. Like there is a very weird there is a weird internationalism between all of them, and there is they are, and the U.S. media is making it even easier for them to be attracted to one another, because one thing that they all really love and agree on is Trump, and Trump is a type of politic that they can look at and be like, this is what we want for our country, maybe even more extreme, but this is a point that we can see that in a country that then we did not like before, the U.S., like they all, like a lot of these countries are like you said, like they're pro-NATO, but they're also like pretty critical of the U.S. still too at the same time. It's a very weird mix that makes no sense half the time, but they can at least look to this and be like, Trump is making a difference, and he's making a difference. He's making America great, and we want to make Germany great. We want to make Latvia great again. We want to make, Poland great again. Hungary, Greece, and it's mind-boggling when you're just sitting here. It's just overwhelming. I don't know how like any other way to describe it.
There is like this weird, like you said, like the far right international, which is oddly a new thing. Like this is something, if we go back to like the 2014 EU elections, the like splits amongst the far right were just over some of the fucking pettiest bullshit. The two big swinging dicks in the European Parliament then was Nigel Farage and Marine Le Pen.
Whew.
And they refused to work together. Marine Le Pen managed to like secure away Geert Wilders, who last I saw from him, he got into trouble for holding a Muhammad drawing contest. Not even joking. And one of his closest allies in his party converted to Islam. So,
what's his name? Mike Cernovich?
No. What are the Dutch from Mike is? But yeah. But like, this is the kind of shit that's happening with those parties, and they're no longer the like big ticket items. And now since then, like Lega and Freedom Party Austria have like risen to prominence, and it like this, but this whole thing has changed, and like AfD was actually like one of the last parties to get on board with the whole we're going to hijack the European project for our nefarious purposes, because like even the recent party conference, the party leadership went against the party membership's decision. The party membership wanted to have an anti-EU line in their platform, but the party leadership were like, nah, like the European Union is popular within Germany, we're not fucking running on that. And also like at the same time, La Lega has changed tact on this. Front National, now called National Rally, has changed tact on this. Geert Wilders and whatever his name's party is, like VVVVVDDDD, has changed tact on this. And like a lot of these Eastern European authoritarian parties like Fidesz and PIS never really had this as a part of their platform. They were always like, the European Union sucks, but we're staying in it, kind of as their mentality. The NATO thing is way harder to explain. I think they want... I would say the like whole anti-Americanism thing is just lip service. I don't think any of them are actually anti-American in any like real or meaningful sense, other than we would rather not have McDonald's and have like proper French restaurants instead, or whatever the fuck. That literally was a campaign point of Le Pen's for a long time.
I want premium Hungarian goulash fast food places. That's Viktor Orban does not have my vote, given I cannot vote in Hungary, but if I could, and that was his point.
McGoulash.
Yeah, McGoulash. I want that. Viktor Orban, get on it.
Yeah, like it's weird, and I'm genuinely scared for the next European elections, because now that like Five Star Movement has lost popularity, UKIP is out of the way, the like right wing of Europe is now going to like coalesce into actually a united front. That being said, they could all get really bitchy.
At least their name already sounds fascist. If it was United Front.
United Front, right? No, they're all for like European for freedoms and direct democracy or some bullshit.
That doesn't sound nearly as fascist.
No, it doesn't. They've wised up to it.
Can they at least appropriate the Golden Dawn logo?
The Thunder Star.
No, that's that Latvian one.
Oh, okay.
No, the Golden Dawn one is
they say it's something from like ancient Greek history.
Yeah, it's just the thing that you would see in a column, but it just happens to, if you put it on a red background and make it black,
well, if you cut it, it's just like
well, you gonna say that for almost anything.
Yeah,
it's just a pattern, but if you cut the pattern a certain way, it looks like a swastika.
Yeah, it's really funny when you see that pattern in things that then aren't meant to be Golden Dawn propaganda, and you're all like, oh, this, now that they exist, this is a weird thing. You know, all ancient Greek pottery looks very much like Golden Dawn.
Who were the real Nazis? Ancient Greek potters.
All of them, yeah.
Just to couch a little bit what I said there, because there is like a lot of like international united front kind of aspect to a lot of these parties, but at the same time, like La Lega and Freedom Party Austria is a good example, have really brought back some like old school irredentism. Like Freedom Party Austria is like seriously talking about La Lega is really talking about like annexing small parts of like the Italian speaking Austria, like South Tyrol or whatever the fuck, and just like taking that back. This is something that everyone has considered like a done thing since like the 1910s. Like this isn't an issue.
Maybe they just like, I don't know. Wait, what other country has done this recently?
Erdogan just like had a weird like dick out meeting with Alexis Tsipras, where it's like, maybe we need to redraw the borders and I just take all of Thrace.
Holy shit, I was joking to someone about this the other day, about that I always would see like Greeks in Germany writing, whenever I had to do anything with Erdogan, they always like write very skeptically. They're like, oh, like I lived in Thessaloniki and this and that, and I'm legitimately afraid about Erdogan. And I always found that hilarious, of like, why do you care about this? I'm like, oh wait, like Erdogan is a dick.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I mean, in his eyes, Greece is the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah,
so.
no, absolutely. Like there was another meeting where he met with the like Prime Minister of Moldova, and he fell asleep during the meeting, like in front of the cameras,
because he wasn't talking about like
reestablishing Bessetia or whatever the fuck the Ottomans called Moldova.
In that sense, I would fall asleep too.
I think your point that a lot of these new far right parties are coalescing around a united European front, I think that also kind of points the direction into the future. I mean, Europe is set up to protect its economic interests in this like neo-colonial situation, you know, and it was doing fine with the neoliberals running it. And now there's some problems with it. And basically they want to tap into that discontent, that racism, whatever's going on, not solve it, supercharge that into just a new version of this European domination that will continue the same project of enriching Europe at the expense of other parts of the world. And while that's going on, I mean, that will only get stronger, and they probably need this new supercharged version as the crises get worse, as there are more refugees, as climate change gets worse, as there's going to be as the
Oh yeah, we
world
are
economic
fucked.
bubble
We
pops.
are fucked.
But while all that's going on, I mean, the U.S. is actually a good comparison. I know we keep going back to the U.S.,
Yeah.
but what's so good about Trump is that you can just see it. It's all laid bare. Trump
Yeah.
is just so dumb. He's only there to trigger the libs. And it just shows you that's the dichotomy that's needed. You need to have a figurehead who runs the culture war and fires up all the people and makes the other people mad. And then the deep state, whatever you want to call them, just keeps doing what they're going to do. They keep, making sure they have access to new economic natural resources in Venezuela. And Trump is just there to keep the people appeased. And you're going to have a similar situation in Europe where they're shifting towards these far right politics and then keeping the culture wars going, feeding into the racism going on and trying to own the Antifas. One news thing I wanted to bring up is one of these AfD politicians said they want to close down Berghain, and
I mean, I'm with them on that.
For those who don't know, Berghein's this giant techno club in Berlin.
It's where every comedian in Berlin gets like all of their material.
And the thing is, like, a lot of these well-to-do, well-meaning liberals are like they're taking away that's a monument to free expression and this and that. That's not the point. The point is to like stoke this culture war, because there are these people who are like, yeah, those fucking young, rich, gentrifying people in the city who go to
mostly
Berghain
vote
every weekend.
CDU also, by the
Yeah,
way.
true. But the point
I feel
is to
personally
like set
attacked.
up this culture war, and then the system
Yeah.
just churns on as it always does.
Yeah, the last thing I guess I'll say is the only thing that I find questionable of all this, and given Europe hasn't failed on this in the past, but the thing that the U.S. has in comparison that Europe doesn't have right now is there isn't a Trump. There isn't someone remotely as charismatic as him. I mean, say what you like. The guy's dumb as rocks, but he did, supercharge this movement that had been dormant in the United States and really gave it life. And I think that until something like that, and given there is a lot of infighting with these groups too, like given they may have an internationalism amongst the different, new far right parties, but within themselves, they are still trying to find themselves. And until there is someone who can really bring them together, not either countrywide or internationally, to kind of get along one idea, or, like for the U.S., it's the wall. It is this very simple idea that they can all get behind. And these parties don't really have that yet. And that's at least maybe a saving grace, that since they don't have a Trump, it may be then easier. Maybe they will just fade away. Then again, true, like climate change and the crises that we're seeing in and around Europe, economic crisis is not over in the EU. Like the 2008 financial crisis, Germany's finally starting to experience with the gutting of the social welfare system that we're seeing with the reforms for Hartz IV, that it's not over simply. And these problems are just going to intensify, and liberals are going to continuously ignore them. But I think at least the saving grace is, as long as there isn't that key like there was in Trump in the United States, these parties will be popular, but you're not going to see them then take a 30% in like they'll gain power by, I think, appeasing conservatives. Like I do see the CDU working with the AfD, or like you were saying, like Lega Nord in Italy and stuff like that, who just completely
they've hijacked, even though they're the minority partner in that coalition.
Yeah. Like that exactly happened in that country. I mean, given Italian politics, also like Greece is just a complete shithole. But like these have been happening on smaller scales. But I guess also the good thing about Europe being so broken up amongst nations is that it could just be a temporary situation as well, but it doesn't also mean that we shouldn't take the actual serious situations. We shouldn't take them lightly, because they are bad. We're getting fucked over no matter like what, unless you're extremely wealthy. Your life is going to drastically change within like the next decade, obviously.
Yeah, it's an interesting one that you mentioned, like charismatic leadership, because one of the things that I would say in like broad strokes with AFD in like European context is it's one of these right-wing parties that appeared in around the same time, all like in response to like 2008 and the Euro crisis. Really, even though like a lot of analysis kind of ignored that aspect, they're the only ones that didn't have like a super charismatic leader.
Yeah,
they didn't like. UKIP has Nigel Farage. Front National had like Marine Le Pen and her like anti-Semitic father. Lega Nord eventually found Matteo Salvini because he wasn't necessarily always there. Geert Wilders, again, like most people remember Geert Wilders' name rather than his party's name.
Because it's too complicated.
Because it was too many V's, too many D's. And like, we also kind of getting into the situation of like, what is it, like, in religion and science, it's called God of the Gaps, but the situation where like, we constantly look to these countries where this hasn't happened yet and say, we need to emulate them. And then the unfortunate thing is, it just turns out they were a little delayed. Like, for a while back in like early 2013, in around 2015, before AFD was really making a splash, everyone was looking to Germany being like, Germany hasn't had a Geert Wilders party, it hasn't had a Marine Le Pen party. And then for a while, up until very recently, people were pointing to like a lot of the Mediterranean countries like Spain. And oops, here's Vox. And now the one everyone's...
Actual Francoist. Just...
Yeah, neo-Franquismo is the term that they're using. And
sounds sexy, at least.
It does. It's very Spanish, and Spanish is a very sexy language as they murder thousands of Moroccans. But like, I think like, and now everyone's turning to Portugal. Portugal is a country where this hasn't happened yet. Ireland as well, but like everyone forgets we're an independent country. And they're going to turn to Portugal, and the pessimist in me is saying, give it 5 years, and we're going to see Vox with one of the weird Portuguese accent marks over the O.
Vox.
This is Vox, but more nasal. Like, yeah, so that's the pessimist in me. I like to think that maybe it's reached its peak. Hopefully that we're going to see it die down, because I constantly think back to how everyone was like, Geert Wilders is the hot shit, he's the like star of the right, and now we
that hair.
Whew, that hair. He does look like a Bond villain.
Yeah,
like,
he
it's
really
ridiculous. But like we barely hear from him now, and we think,
which is good. Like, it is good that we do not hear from him.
Absolutely.
Like, he was someone who was so stupid that he pushed himself out of the limelight
and made all his friends convert to Islam.
Yeah. They just all read the Hadith and realized, like, damn, I've been missing. Like,
oh God, Wilders is wrong. But they still, like, aggregate polls, they're still like the second most popular party in percentage.
Well, that's not good.
No, it's not.
Well, I think on that note, we can.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that that's a very pessimistic note, but we can give you maybe some positivity. Is that there is. I mean, actually, in Germany, there isn't a left answer to this yet, but we can work to a left answer. And the left answer, at least in my opinion, is far more optimistic, given, like, let's not fall into utopian traps, but I guess this could also come in the sense of how things, you know, I know that a lot of people don't want us to continuously look to the United States, but it'll be interesting to see then how, again, earlier at the episode we're talking about Bernie, but I do think that that could legitimately kickstart something that then has, or even Corbyn, like, there is an answer to this that we can see that then isn't complete hell, and that is something positive, given, yeah, they're going to have dumb shit thrown at them like that they're anti-Semites, which just isn't fucking true, but, you know, just as long as, like, you know, perseverance and not willing to, appease the fash or the conservatives or whatever it is, and that if the SPD fucking becomes a social democratic party at least, you know, there are little steps that then I think can be taken in Europe that can at least smother this where it is now. It just, maybe not this next election cycle, obviously, but there is a job that, and I think the thing that we saw, like in Chemnitz, for example, the amount of counter protests against an actual Nazi movement and how much coverage that got and how much international support that got, like that, in a bleak situation like that, did actually prove, for me at least, to be somewhat optimistic. although it wasn't, it didn't get rid of the AFD, it didn't get rid of Nazis or whatever for good, but it was at least that there were more people who were not Nazis there than that were Nazis at the end of the day.
It's good to not feel alone.
Yeah.
Like, that's definitely a huge part of it. Like the what was it? An Aufstehen, what am I thinking of? The Unteilbar. The Unteilbar numbers gave me a little bit of like...
Yeah, as problematic as that movement was at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, like these people kind of come out like also like rather like apolitically in some cases to then have like a political statement against the AFD and against like, the resurgence of very open racism in Germany. And that's, something I can at least look positively on in the rise of this. It isn't you can't put just a band-aid over it and be like, okay, cool, it's done. Like, there is struggles that have to be taken to fight this type of politics, because it is very convincing for a lot of people, which is horrible. But they're also like not like, I guess to be fair too, the people who then get duped aren't necessarily like, I wouldn't say that they're the ones to blame. The people who are then making the rhetoric, or the diehard supporters,
the
like,
dupers.
Yeah, the dupers are the fucking shitheads of the whole thing, because the people are legitimately, like, especially in Eastern Germany, are legitimately having a very bad time. And it's for them, migration's the easy thing that they can just make sense in their mind, and that isn't true, obviously. And the left is bad about addressing that simply.
The thing for me that you guys are touching upon is what's considered politics, what's considered an actual movement, and what can be done. Because you have the left party out here with some reasonable critiques, but they don't see themselves as ever being a leading political force. You have liberals out here who mass in the streets and go to dance and protest and these things, but then, to some extent, they leave it up to the policy, the technocrats to lead things. They leave it up to these icons of Europe like Merkel and Macron, who just will unify and make everyone happy. And you have all these social movements. You have the protests going on at Hambacher Forst already in Germany. You have so many actual social movements going on, but nobody is serious about what we're going to do about this, about how we're going to take power. No one's serious about power and the politics. They're happy with this technocratic... I don't even want to say that they're happy with the technocratic system, and I don't even want to say that they have too much faith in the system, but everyone's just kind of in a daze about it. No one's really ready to do what's needed to be done.
That's why Lenin was right when he wrote Stodielat. But yeah, I think on that note...
And then I want to quote Capital Bra, the rapper, who said, "Fick die AfD, fick die USA, fick die bayerisches USK."
I think we'll leave it at that.
That was a terrible ad-lib.
No, brings tears to the eyes.
Yeah. I don't know, I can't do it either. Brap. I think on those horrible gun noises or whatever that was supposed to be.
Is that maybe a gun? I did not realize.
I think that's what it was supposed to be. But I think on that horrible ad lib that we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.